Am I the meanest?
Sure enough.
Am I the prettiest?
Sure enough.
Am I the baddest mofo low down around this town?
Sure enough.
Well, who am I?
Sure enough.
Who am I?
Sure enough.
I can't hear you.
Sure enough.
Throughout Nintendo's history, we've seen plenty of iconic villains: Bowser, Ridley, King K. Rool, and on occasion, even Mario himself. But without a doubt, my personal favorite is none other than Ganondorf from The Legend of Zelda. He's appeared in nearly every game in the series, and Tears of the Kingdom is no exception. Here, we're introduced to what could be the very first incarnation of the legendary villain, and he does not disappoint. In Breath of the Wild, Link and Zelda fight Calamity Ganon. This malicious entity devastates the kingdom of Hyrule, then goes on to rule the land with a gooey purple fist. More impressively, its minions alone manage to not only defeat Hyrule's greatest champions, but also bring Link himself to the brink of death. That's some good stuff right there. But it turns out that Calamity Ganon isn't the big bad we all thought he was. He's just a puppet, an avatar created by the anger and hatred of the game's true villain, Ganondorf. In Tears of the Kingdom, we discover a mummified Ganondorf in the caves beneath Hyrule Castle, the source of the malice that gave birth to Calamity Ganon. Canonically, this appears to be the very first incarnation of the character, the living embodiment of Demise's anger and vengeance. Apparently, he's been underground since time immemorial, until Link and Zelda accidentally wake him up. This raises an important question. If the original Ganondorf has been trapped all this time, who are these guys? That's what I want to talk about today. So enough with the chin wagging, let's get started. The story of Ganondorf is really the story of Skyward Sword. In the game, Link defeats a primal evil force known as Demise, who, upon death, conjures up a curse. This curse allows Demise, or specifically his hatred, to infinitely resurrect and plague the bloodlines of Zelda and her chosen hero. Ganondorf, a male Gerudo, is the personification of the curse and a vessel for Demise's immense power. No matter how many times Link has struck down Ganondorf in his demonic form Ganon, the latter always comes back again and again. But Tears of the Kingdom throws a wrench into this whole process. According to the game, the first Ganondorf appeared thousands of years before the events of Breath of the Wild, back when the Kingdom of Hyrule was still in its infancy. This event seemingly took place after Skyward Sword, but before the Minish Cap. This version of Ganondorf, like those who succeeded him, attempted to take over Hyrule but was defeated by Rauru, the first king of Hyrule, and placed in a state of suspended animation. This conflict came to be known as the Imprisoning War. Ganondorf was then sealed in the caverns beneath Hyrule Castle, where he remained for ages until his eventual release during a chance encounter with Link and Zelda. But if this is the case, and the real Ganondorf has been alive all this time, who exactly have Link and Zelda been fighting throughout the ages? It's possible that this is simply a reboot of the series. There's also the chance that multiple versions of Ganondorf can exist simultaneously within the same timeline. In Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, the Zelda we're tasked with rescuing isn't the one from the first game, but a Zelda from a previous era. Both princesses share the same temporal space, despite being reincarnations of the same person. Maybe this also applies to Ganondorf. However, I have another theory. Strap yourself in. This is a wild one. In DC Comics, there's a character called Darkseid. Created by Jack Kirby, he made his debut in Forever People #1. Over the decades, he's been a primary villain for Superman and the Justice League. But supposedly, the versions of Darkseid we've seen in the comics aren't his true form, but merely emanations that allow him to be in multiple places at once, while his true form resides somewhere beyond space and time. It's possible that Ganondorf, through the power of Demise, is able to achieve a similar feat. In Tears of the Kingdom, we see Ganondorf steal an artifact known as a Secret Stone, which enhances the natural abilities of its wearer. Its power, combined with his own inborn magic, allows him to use the substance called malice to create hordes of monsters to do his bidding. He's even able to fashion copies of himself and others, known as phantoms, the most powerful of these eventually being Calamity Ganon. With enough time, effort, and power, it seems plausible that he could also craft near identical clones of himself, flesh and blood avatars, able to carry out his will while he figures out a way to escape his imprisonment. This might be accomplished by using malice or another form of dark magic to twist and corrupt male Gerudo babies while they're still in the womb. I believe that these replicas are the Ganondorfs Link and Zelda battled after the Imprisoning War. But being a clone doesn't mean that these Ganondorfs are any less powerful than the original. If anything, they have the potential to be just as strong, if not stronger, than their creator. For example, in A Link to the Past, Ganondorf is able to obtain the complete Triforce and use its infinite power to transform the Golden Land into his own personal playground. If that ain't power, I don't know what is. And the potential I speak of isn't just limited to raw power, it extends to personality as well. Throughout the Zelda series, Ganondorf is considered to be the quintessence of evil, a cruel, irredeemable monster, driven by Demise's ancient and insatiable hatred towards Hylia and her chosen hero. Yet, in Wind Waker, Ganondorf's motives are those of a man desperate to save his people. He's even willing to spare the lives of Link and Zelda during the game's final climactic battle. These showings of mercy and empathy prove that despite being a clone, he still possesses individuality and free will. Ultimately, these different versions of Ganondorf are, in my humble opinion, just as authentic as the original. They're not simply clones, they're individuals. They're all Ganondorf, all parts of a single whole, the living extension of Demise's ancient curse. Combined, they create not only one of the greatest video game villains of all time, but one of the best villains, period. And I think that's where we'll stop today. If you have any Zelda theories of your own, head on down to the comment section and do your thing. And if you like this video, I sincerely hope you'll consider liking and subscribing. It does wonders for the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.